How generous are you? How generous are you? One of the remarkable gifts of all of the saints is their a brilliant reflection of God's extraordinary generosity. Now here this evening, I might be preaching to the choir. That's you, Bonnie, and who else is up there? Our cantors. Because this is a very generous parish. Whenever there is a need, you always come forward. But the question is, are we being generous enough? Blessed Mother Teresa of Calcutta, she was an excellent example of generosity. One day, as Brother Sebastian was working at one of the homes for the dying in Calcutta, the ambulance brought in a man. He looked at him and he recognized this man and he said, "You've been with us for several times before." So he told Mother Teresa, he said, "There's no sense in helping this man. He's taking advantage of our generosity." And St. Teresa looked at him and said, "Brother Sebastian, does this man need your help now or not? It does not matter that he was here yesterday or not, or that he's going to come back again sometime in the future." And she went on to tell Brother Sebastian, we don't have yesterday anymore, nor do we have tomorrow yet. All we have is today, to love God and to serve the poor. How generous are we? And that generosity that Mother Teresa shared, that's only a glimpse of the kind of supernatural generosity that continuously flows from God's heart for you and me. How many times haven't we sinned? And God says, "I will give you my mercy. I will free you of your sin." God's generosity is constantly being poured out for us. Christ himself is that generous landowner in this parable. And the lesson our Lord wants to learn from this gospel is that his generosity goes beyond even our wildest comprehension. That's why in that first reading, God tells us, "My thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways." God is so generous. To pay these hired workers for a full day's wage only when they worked a couple of hours. I get a little bit nervous when I hear this gospel. Put yourself in my shoes. Here at the Church and School of St. Peter, we employ about 60 to 70 people. Can you imagine if those employees only worked an hour and they said, "We want the full day's wage"? And I said, "Hey, the policy is you got to work 40 hours a week to get your pay." God says, "My ways are not your ways." And all we have to stop and do is look at a crucifix. Look at the side of Christ. When he was hanging there dying, they came to the other two thieves and they broke their legs. But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead, and the soldier put his lance into his side, and what came out? Blood and then water. God gave everything. Nothing was left. Nothing was left for our salvation. How generous are we when others ask for our help? How generous are we when the poor come to us? How generous are we in helping the needs of our neighbor? How generous are we in supporting our church? Does our generosity even compare with God's generosity? This is the privilege Christ has generously given to us by making us his fellow workers in God's kingdom. Today, let's thank him for it. And let's promise this week that we will live the best we can to live up to it. How generous are we? Look at a crucifix, if you ever question it, and then say to yourself, maybe I can give just a little bit more. God's generosity is so brilliant. How generous are we?